How many ticks do we have? 1, 2, 3. 3 ticks, 3 platforms. We are live. Welcome back, everybody. It is what is it? It's a miserable Wednesday here in Melbourne, but we are alive. We're upstanding. What are we? Upright and standing, breathing. We've got things to be grateful for. If you are still in lockdown, if you are watching from Sydney, my condolences. I don't know what's going on over there, but trust me, we know those feels. And I've been watching the news on Twitter, and I don't watch the news. It's definitely toxic. So don't do that if you are in any location struggling at the moment. Don't watch the news. It's not good. It's not made to be good either. So don't do that. But otherwise, make sure that you are finding ways to get through the day. And I mean, look, I drank wine and did lots of work. It was quite productive personally. But I'm sure however you need to get through the day, make sure you do that and look after yourselves, and know that we are thinking of you over in Victoria. We just came out of lockdown today. Today is our first day back out, maybe for the next 2 weeks. Who knows? It seems to be a bit of a yo-yo. But hopefully sooner than later we can find some normalcy. Not this version of normalcy, though. It's a bit meh. Otherwise, welcome everybody. If you are joining us for the first time, thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoy what content we've got coming up. And if you don't really know who I am, well, let me introduce myself. I am Aileen Day. I am the owner and founder of Meraki Business Solutions and Value Driven Brand, and Aileen Day Consulting /advisory. And we joke that I'm greedy. I like to have 3 businesses because I like to stay busy and have my fingers in many pies. But ultimately, what we do is we work with businesses, helping them to become brands and helping them to understand and implement customer experiences worthy of their customers' loyalty. So in these lives that we do, we talk about customer experience, we talk about employee experience, and one of my most favorite attributes of business is the human experience, something that many of us seem to forget. And I am on a mission to help you put the HX back into your customer and employee experience. And if you've been around before, you would know that we call that the joy of sex. That's right. CX is customer experience, CEX is customer employee experience, and CEHX is what I like to call the joy of sex. So today, speaking of CX, we are going to be having a little bit of a chat around understanding your customer experience ecosystem. So when we talk about your customer experience ecosystem, I would envisage that we all as adults understand what an ecosystem is. And just in case you're watching this and you go, I'm not quite sure. Basically, your customer experience ecosystem is the system in which your brand, your business operates. All the branches, all the roots, the foundations, the trunk, the core of your business, and leading out to the innovations, the services, the people. You know, if you envisage it to be yourself is the tree, you know, your customers are other trees, soon you're in a forest, right? So that is the ecosystem. It's the money you bring in, the services you deliver, the whole thing works together in an ecosystem to help you stay in business and to help your customers stay engaged. However, one thing is for sure, that so many of us in business don't understand how that ecosystem implicitly works. We have a high level understanding that, I put a service out there, I train my team, they deliver it, customers come, we get money, we do it all again. but they don't implicitly understand the ins and outs of that ecosystem, meaning that if there are particular pain points, so things that are breaking down that ecosystem from working as optimally as possible, that we might not be aware of those things. Or if we are aware, sometimes what is a bigger predicament is that we are conscious of them, but we actually don't know how to deal with them. We don't know how to lead through them. We don't know how to manage them. Sometimes we have to have tough conversations, and human nature derives that, generally speaking, we don't like having confrontation with people. But so often what that then results in is, because you can't have those, or you refuse or resist having those conversations, everything gets worse. Things snowball, problems get bigger, and the next thing you know, your business is going broke and you are going under. So, and that's not even including external factors like being in the middle of a pandemic, right? We're talking about the things that would have been happening, bubbling underneath the surface before any of this really even started. So it is imperative as a leader, as an owner in a business, as whether you are a solopreneur, whether you are the leader of a multi-billion-dollar company, whoever you are, if you rely on customers for your livelihood, it is imperative that you understand what your customer experience ecosystem looks and feels like. So there's a few tips that I'm going to give you today on how you can do that. The very first tip on understanding your customer experience ecosystem is to become educated in what that ecosystem actually looks like. Now, in previous lives, we have talked about creating a customer experience journey map. And actually, if you are interested, I have a webinar available. If you comment in the comment section today, I will send you a link to that webinar where you can learn at your own pace how to create your own customer experience journey map. Now, for many of my clients, what I actually do is I go one step further and I create what's called a customer experience blueprint. And what that does is, that is like the next level of journey mapping again. But to start at the basics, we're going to talk about journey mapping. And the benefit to journey mapping your customer experience ecosystem is that it starts to really display to you where the problems are, where there's misalignment between what you think you're delivering and what you're actually delivering, where there is a breakdown in processes, where there is a breakdown in the way that you think you wanted to see something be executed versus the way it currently is being executed. And the beautiful part of that is that then leads you to become conscious of what is going on around you. Why aren't customers coming back? Well, chances are when you perform a customer experience journey map, you'll start to see why. One of my most favorite journey mapping experiences was for a home builder, and they had gone from being a relatively very small home builder, building I think it was like 3 houses a year, to building 300 houses a year. So they actually went from this really small business, very, very small amount of team members within the business. Everybody knew everything about everyone, and that was fine. Everyone worked together. But the reality was that they grew so exponentially and so quickly that what ended up happening was they didn't have the opportunity to reevaluate their customer experience ecosystem. And when we did a customer experience journey mapping activity with them, if you can imagine these huge floor-to-ceiling windows in a boardroom, huge boardroom, floor-to-ceiling windows covered in butcher's paper and post-it notes everywhere. And the team got broken into smaller teams, and each small team was asked to go and create a journey map in relation to a particular part of the customer journey. So it might have been the sales process, it might have been the marketing process, it might have been the building process, it might have been the after building support process. And then what happened was we all came together and we put those journey maps up on the glass windows in the boardroom. And everybody stood back, and the idea was that they were to then relay to the group their customer experience journey for the section that they were asked to do the map for. And it's my favorite thing to watch the reality dawn on them, because what ultimately happened was it was so overwhelming, it was so messy, it was so broken, but they never realized until they saw it in that mode of being up on a wall, being visual, being hectic and chaotic. And it was insane to think that they had been working like this for over 2 years now. And this is what generally tends to happen with businesses as they grow, and especially if they find themselves growing exponentially and quickly, is that they still tend to find themselves treating their business like a small business. And they end up breaking their business. Instead of breaking the ceiling and going to that next level, they break their business altogether because they continue to treat their growing and bigger business like it was a small or micro business, which you just can't do. Your ecosystem is changing, and therefore it is imperative that you understand and visualize what that ecosystem now looks like and how it needs to be adapted to continue that growth and sustain, and not just sustain, but continue improving that growth, improving that customer experience so that you are delivering experiences that are worthy of those customers and their loyalty. Right. So what happened was they all stood back and they were all aghast. They were like, oh my God, this is disgraceful. And they couldn't even explain it back to me. And the point is that when you do those types of activities, if you can't explain it back, then if you're not able to understand that ecosystem and see the value in that ecosystem, then how can your customers? They can't. They're going to see a chaotic mess as well. They're going to see like people running around with their, chicken with their head cut off. Is that the saying? Yes, that's the saying. And that's not going to want to make them come back. That is certainly not going to create a trusted, value-driven brand for them, right? They're not going to refer you onto their next, onto their friends or colleagues who are then building a house, because they're going to go, you know what, that was chaotic. That was just too hectic. The anxiety alone was just, I'm never going back there. So if anything, actually what happens is because you don't understand your customer experience ecosystem, you're actually working towards creating what's called detractors, people who are actively out in the public detracting from the work that you do, telling people to steer clear, Get away. Don't touch them with a 10-foot barge pole. Such an old saying. Don't even really have barges anymore. Anyway, you get my point. So what can you do? The first thing you need to do is you need to create a customer experience journey map. You need to have that visibility around that ecosystem. What is the customer experience that you are currently delivering? Because if you don't know what you're currently delivering, if you continue to delude yourself, if you continue to be unconscious, then you're not going to get any further than where you currently are. If anything, you're probably on a fast track to go backwards. And for those businesses who are struggling, especially during this last 12-month period, 18-month period, I would implore you to do this activity even more so, with even more urgency. So again, if you want that webinar, put your detail or put your name in the comments and I will contact you with the link to that webinar so that you can understand what it means to create a customer experience journey map for your brand. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to start asking why. Why is this happening? Why? You know, one of the things that when I was starting my leadership career in Bunnings was we got taught about the 5 monkeys, and the 5 monkeys asked why. And by the time you got to the 5th monkey, you generally got to the source of the reason as to why things happen the way they do. But you also do need to be very mindful that generally the why doesn't always give you the solution, right? Once you understand the why, the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to ask your team and your customers, how? How do you want to see this change? How do you want to have the solution delivered to you? How would best service your life? How can we create value so that you can have that customer experience that you deserve? And so often we don't ask our team. I actually enjoy working with businesses who are like, oh yeah, we talk to our customers all the time. Great. That makes me so excited. It really, really does. Customer insights are one of the best things that you can do. I'm a little bit biased. I used to do it for Bunnings and Officeworks, you know, some major companies in Australia. But the lessons that you learn, even from the customer insights that you don't really want to hear about, are invaluable. You can't get them anywhere else. Those are raw, authentic feelings of the people who pay your bills. So if you aren't currently finding ways to listen to your customers, get in touch. Let's talk about how you can do that effectively so that you're closing the loop. And what that means is that it's one thing to get the feedback from the customers, but how do you then respond to the customer to let them know, hey, we hear you, and you create this two-way communication. You know, in public relations, it's always better to have two-way communication than just one way. So how do you listen to your customers? But then on top of that, how are you listening to your team? How are you engaging your team to find solutions to also deliver to them an employee experience by which they feel heard, right? And often, sadly, what I find is that employees, when they have an idea, they don't speak up. Because somewhere in the past, whether it's in that organization or another organization, they have found that when they have voiced their either concerns, their feedback, or their ideas, that they haven't been met with a level of openness that they probably would need to make them want to do that again. And so it is your job as the leader, as the owner, as the entrepreneur, as the person driving the ship, steering the ship. Yeah, you drive a ship as well. There's a steering wheel. As the person in charge, it is your responsibility to make sure that your team are engaged, to make sure that your team feels safe, to speak up, to be candid. And again, we've had these conversations about creating a culture of candidness, right? It's not to be rude, it's just to be upfront and honest. But that at the same time, you need to create a safety net around that so that people actually believe you when you say, yeah, no, I want to hear your ideas, that they go, okay, I actually trust he does want to, or they do want to hear my ideas. And I'm not going to get shit canned for my ideas or for my feedback. So if you aren't currently finding ways to listen to your team, then please, let's talk about how you can do that effectively. Again, closing the loop, right? And making sure that that employee experience is one where they go, you know what, I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. Nobody listens to me the way that this employer listens to me. Nobody takes me on and gives me the opportunity to share my ideas and my concerns and my thoughts and my feelings the way that this employer does. Why would I want to go anywhere else? And you can do that. It's actually really simple. Then once you have spoken to your customers and then also spoken to your team, I want you to then go back to that journey map and I want you to figure out who else is complicit in these pain points, right? Who else is causing issues for you in the goal of delivering customer experiences that help you become a trusted and value-driven brand? Is it your local government, right? Is it, I remember working at a store once and the crosswalk lights kept breaking down and there was like issues with the traffic lights around the store, right? And the local government was responsible for solving that problem, but they would take their time and it would happen consistently. And then the offshoot was that customers were actually having car accidents getting into the store because the traffic and the intersection was just kind of crazy and hectic, right? So then people started to feel it was unsafe. And so then you've got this outwards projection of, you know, I don't want to go to that location because something bad could happen. And that wasn't because of anything that the store was doing. That was an external factor. So if it's an external factor, it's still something that you need to be conscious of. It's still something that local government is now complicit in your poor customer experience. So what are you going to do? Right? Understand who else needs to be brought in to make sure that your customer experience ecosystem is smoothly operating, is streamlined, you know, so your systems, your processes, your back end, your front end, your team, all of those things that complete that customer experience. Because again, customer experience is not customer service. Customer experience is everything in the front, everything in the back, everything around it that applies to the way your customers think and feel about your brand. Every touch point, every perception, every piece of feedback they hear from somebody else all applies to your customer experience. So if you are not aware of that ecosystem, then you are damaging your customer experience and the future of your brand. So that is it for me today. I am also going to add the link if you want to join me every month on my new newsletter. It's the 411 with Aileen Day. I'm going to throw the link in there. Please feel free to sign up. I don't spam anybody. I don't sell your details. There's no Nigerian princes getting your information, but it is purely a short and sweet email newsletter and helping you understand the priorities around customer, employee, and human experience. So I hope you'll join me every month for the 411 with Aileen Day. Until next time, please go out and deliver value to somebody else in your life, because what goes around comes around. Until then, see you then.